Hey Thrivers, Michelle here. Welcome back to my channel. So today what I wanted to do was I wanted to talk about the core wound of narcissistic abuse. I know that I put out a lot of information about identifying the toxic person, and I feel that information is important because when you don't understand it, you can't start working through it. However, I also recognize that if you don't get to the core wound of what happened with narcissistic abuse, then you can actually spend years and even decades of your life just doing symptom management and never really feeling like you're healing from the trauma and the abuse. Some of my clients have been out of the relationship for so long, and yet what happened in the past is still affecting them in the present, and it's preventing them from having the life that they want. So that's why I wanted to make this video. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what symptom management looks like so that you can evaluate and see if maybe you're stuck in that part of the healing. And then we're going to talk about what that core wound is, and most importantly, how to work through it so that you can live life as you really are, instead of having the trauma continue to plague your present. So with that in mind, let's get started. So let's first talk about what symptom management looks like. And I loved the illustration that Jackson McKenzie put in his book, Whole Again, where he described symptom management being very similar to somebody that notices that they have a leak in their roof, which I recently had. And instead of getting the leak fixed, because maybe it's going to cost a lot, right? So they decide to manage the leak by putting out pots. However, eventually you're dumping out the pots, you're getting new pots, and just managing the leaky roof is more time consuming, more exhausting than just getting that roof fixed. Well, something similar happens with healing narcissistic abuse. We can get stuck in symptom management. And what that looks like is we start looking at certain side effects of the abuse. We finally get conscious of certain things, which is awesome, right? Because if you're not in symptom management, then you're living unconscious and you're not even aware of the situation. So symptom management is at least one step in the direction towards healing. But what that looks like is, let's say you realize through the abusive relationship that you are a people pleaser, that you have a hard time saying no, you have a hard time putting your needs as a priority, right? You put everyone here and yourself there. You have a hard time with boundaries. You crave external validation. Maybe you have social anxiety. Depression and or anxiety are also side effects or symptoms of narcissistic abuse. And so once you're aware of these, you're really putting the pots out, so to speak, and you're trying to manage these symptoms. Wow, speaking of a leaky roof, it's pouring out right now. I can hear it. Anyway, okay, so you're putting out the pots, and you're managing it. So what that looks like is you're probably watching a lot of videos about the narcissist, right? And you're learning their toxic behaviors, and you're realizing how you're showing up, which again, that's good. You're starting to notice behaviors and you're starting to be able to make choices. But the whole focus is on these symptoms. The problem is that when you're stuck in symptom management, you're always working on them. Like as soon as you're done with one symptom, another one comes up. And so now you're working on this symptom and then another one comes up. Very much like the pot that gets filled from the leaky roof. And now it's full, now you gotta change it for another one and then another one. And it can be really exhausting. And I know some of my clients have told me, Michelle, it's like the toxic person isn't even in my life anymore, and they still have the ability to steal or rob me of my own happiness because I'm still dealing with all of these side effects. So that's what symptom management looks like. So in order to take another step on our healing journey, we have to start uncovering what all of those symptoms are a result of. And I know that it's very easy to say, well, they're a result of narcissistic abuse. However, if we just leave it at that, what we're basically saying is that it's the result of someone else, therefore I had nothing to do with it, therefore I can do nothing about it. So we actually have to take it a step deeper, and we have to look at the wound that the narcissistic abuse inflicted. So that's what we're going to do right now. Okay, so I'm going to talk about it from an infant being born into a family with narcissistic family members. However, the same thing can happen with somebody that had an okay childhood, right? Because nobody had a perfect childhood. And they had an okay childhood, and yet they fell into a relationship with a narcissist. The same wound gets inflicted. When a baby is born, they are 100% whole as who they are, right? The baby isn't worried about what people think of them. The baby is able and willing to give and receive unconditional love. The baby is just being, okay? There's nothing more authentic than a baby. They're just literally being. Unfortunately, if that baby is born into a family environment where the parents have either narcissistic tendencies, even unhealed, complex PTSD, even codependency, drug addictions, alcohol addictions, or simply emotionally unavailable parents, just to mention a few different scenarios. If that baby is born into a family environment like that, then unfortunately that baby learns conditional love. Okay? Suddenly that parent is only happy with the baby if and when that baby is doing, behaving, feeling whatever suits the needs of that parent. So that baby, and then soon to be toddler and child, learns that their authentic self isn't enough, and their authentic self is bad, right? That's what those behaviors tend to teach a child. There's something wrong with me. I'm stained. And so the child then separates from the parts of them, or I should say not the parts of them, but they separate from their wholeness, right? From that whole place of giving and receiving unconditional love, they separate to a place of, I am only enough if and when I do, or I make others happy, or I fix, or I heal, or I take care of, or I sacrifice self in an effort to make that person happy. They learn conditional love, and they separate from that place of authenticity, of pure self-acceptance, pure self-love, and the ability to give and receive unconditional love. When that happens, it's almost like there's a template that's made in that child, that infant, toddler child, that now they live their life in that mold of thinking that there's something wrong with them, that their purpose is to do and be for others, that they have to hide and fragment, right, pieces of themselves, otherwise they won't be loved, because that's what happened in their upbringing. If they were authentic, they were punished. So they think anytime I'm authentic, anytime I am myself, I'm going to be abandoned emotionally. So they begin to live life from that fractured state of conditional love. Being separated from who you really are, that's causing somebody to do something that God Himself doesn't do. Okay? God Himself gives everyone free will. The right to be who they are, the right to have their own authenticity, and their right to choose their thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Well, narcissistic abuse takes away free will. It takes away your right to be your authentic self, to be in that place where it's easy to give and receive unconditional love. When that happens, there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of pain in kind of divorcing yourself, so to speak. And the same wound can happen in adulthood. For example, if before you went into a relationship, you liked yourself, for the most part, obviously, you felt good about yourself, you were confident, but then suddenly you went into the relationship And because of the emotional turmoil, the gaslighting, the manipulation, the psychological abuse, your identity got twisted. Your identity was stolen in the sense that you weren't allowed to view yourself as how you used to view yourself. And it got so twisted that there was a separation. I get so many people that tell me, Michele, I miss the person I used to be. One of the first things I did on my own healing journey was the journal, I Miss Me and I Want Me Back. I don't even think I really understood exactly what I meant by that, but I just knew that there was an overall change with my identity, with who I really was and who I was now. And I was having a difficult time kind of bridging that gap. So if you feel disconnected from self, if you feel like you don't even know who you are, or that you're so different from who you are on the inside, like the person on the outside is so different from the person on the inside, then you might want to look at the fact that this core wound may have been administered in your case, in your life, and it's not until we heal that core wound that we can feel like who we really are. So how do you do that? I'm going to mention a few things that are super valuable, but for anyone that needs more assistance, remember the videos aren't individualized and everyone's circumstance is different, and how they apply in their personal life is going to be different than how someone else applies it. So if you need more personal assistance, then make sure you check out the links in my website, because together doing face-to-face coaching, you can learn how to apply all of the tools in your personal life. Okay, so what are some of those tools? The first thing that you have to really start doing is mindfulness. In other words, you have to start listening to what's going on inside of you. We can get so caught up in what the other person is doing, what the other person is feeling, and so hyper vigilant on the other person that we're not noticing what's going on inside of us. So starting to kind of change that focus and putting it on you is really important. Being mindfully present in your body. So in other words, when that pain, that core wound comes up, our brain tries to do everything it can to stop us from feeling it, right? Because it wants to protect us, it wants to keep us safe, and that core wound hurts. It's very painful. I had someone tell me, Michele, it feels like death, like I'm living through death. That's how painful and empty and desolate it can feel. But it's at those moments when we're almost face to face with that core wound. We feel it. And the tendency of our brain is to want to distract us from it. So our brain wants to distract us with story. Let's look at the narcissist. Let's look at what they did. Let's look at the other person. And by being distracted externally, you don't have to feel the pain at that moment. But you're only prolonging the healing journey. So we all know the saying, we have to feel it to heal it. However, you don't have to marinate in it, okay? So something that's powerful is to validate the feeling that comes up. When you see that desolateness, when you see that pain, when it's lurking there, almost like your shadow, and it's following you, rather than running from it, because we all know we can't outrun our shadow, rather than doing that, validate it and say, there's that pain of rejection, of abandonment, emotional abandonment, and then soothe it by saying something like, of course that pain is there. It was awful to not be allowed to be myself. It was awful to be made to feel like I'm a bad person just because I breathe, just because I'm alive. No child should ever have to feel that. So validate and soothe it, and then fuel your unconditional love by saying something like, even though that happened, I love me. Even though that happened, I'm so proud of myself for this, for not tolerating abuse. I'm so proud of myself for taking time, investing in myself to give myself the life that I want, whatever it is. By doing that, you are being there for yourself. You are taking care of your emotional needs, and it will help you to process and release that pain. Again, for anyone that is flipping through videos and trying to heal and feeling like they're not going at the pace that they want, that they're still stuck, please make sure you check out the links in the description box, check out my coaching packages, and see if any of them resonate with you.